There is a moment in the dark when a single click feels like fate. In that quiet second, a person sends out years of work, hope, and identity into a system none of us built and most of us don't control. This is the story of Sarah, a marketing director with 15 years of experience, and of the invisible machinery that decides whether her next chapter will begin or be erased. It is also the story of millions of others, people optimized out of the workforce in a time that promised fairness through algorithms. Sarah sits at her kitchen table, the glow of her laptop painting the room blue. Her resume, version 42, is open as if it were a manuscript. She has shortened bullets, changed margins, removed a graduation year. Tonight, she does something different. She highlights a phrase from the job description, must be proficient in cross-functional synergy and agile workflows, and pastes it into the footer of her resume. She sets the font to size 1 and changes it to white. To the human eye, it disappears. To the machine, it's a beacon. That trick, known on forums and short videos as white fonting, is part hack, part superstition. Sarah takes a breath and hits submit. The progress bar crawls, then fills. Upload complete. She imagines a recruiter opening her file the next day and nodding approvingly. She imagines human judgment. Instead, within 3 seconds, a server in a data center thousands of miles away has parsed her PDF, stripped formatting, and detected the hidden text. It flags the file as suspicious, assigns a fit score of 12 out of 100, and routes her application to a folder nobody checks, archived. No email, no human glance. The machine has moved on. That 3-second span is the modern 3-second rule. Once, it described how long a human skimmed a resume before forming an impression. Now it describes the latency of an API call. When hiring scaled up and one-click applications flooded HR departments, employers turned to automated systems to sift the flood. Machines promised speed, scale, and objectivity. What arrived was something more complicated. Look back to 2018 in a company famous for engineering solutions, Amazon. Engineers built an AI to rank candidates, trained on a decade of hiring decisions. The algorithm learned patterns that predicted who got hired, words, skills, schools. What the algorithm also learned was who had typically been hired, mostly men. The system began downgrading resumes with signals associated with women, certain words, activities, and even the names of women's colleges. Engineers tried to correct it, banned some keywords, and adjusted weights. The model found new proxies. The project was abandoned, but the lesson spread. Data that reflects past bias will reproduce it. Then came another wave, affective computing. Companies asked candidates to record video answers for asynchronous interviews. Algorithms would analyze facial microexpressions, eye contact, and the cadence of speech to score employability. It was phrenology with a camera, reducing complex human behavior to metrics meant to predict performance. Experts warn that facial analysis penalizes cultural differences, disabilities, and neurodiversity. A person who avoids eye contact, or who has a facial paralysis, could be deemed disengaged or dishonest. Public pressure and legal scrutiny forced some vendors to remove facial analysis from their products. But the model of automated assessment endured. Candidates still perform to cameras, and the camera reports to a model that cannot feel. Fast forward to the 2020s, and the most consequential algorithms are the invisible gatekeepers that live behind the apply button. In 2023, a lawsuit, Mobley vs. Workday, claimed that Workday's ranking tools systematically disadvantaged older, Black, and disabled applicants. The plaintiff had applied to more than 100 jobs on platforms using Workday and had been rejected from every application. The suit argued that when these platforms automatically score and rank candidates, they are not mere software vendors, but active participants in hiring decisions, potentially accountable as employment agencies. A federal judge allowed the case to proceed. It was a rare legal push for transparency, but the underlying systems remain widespread. Statistics paint a bleak picture. Harvard Business School research from 2021 estimates around 27 million hidden workers in the United States, able and willing people effectively locked out of many hiring processes by automated systems. These systems are risk-averse by design. They punish gaps in employment histories, prefer narrow keyword matches over transferable skills, and label caregiving or recovery as risk. A 6-month gap for caring for a sick relative becomes a marker of instability. A candidate who pivoted careers and developed rich cross-functional skills is filtered out for not matching a checklist. In 3 seconds, potential is discarded. Worse, sometimes bias isn't emergent or inscrutable, it's deliberate. In 2023, the EEOC settled a case against iTutor Group after its recruiting software automatically rejected female applicants over 55 and male applicants over 60. That was not a mysterious neural network. It was a hard-coded rule. The company paid a settlement, but the outcome showed how software can be a blunt instrument for discrimination, whether through toxic models or outdated logic. Regulation has tried to keep pace. New York City passed Local Law 144 in 2023 to require audits of automated employment decision tools and candidate notifications. But the law applies only when a tool substantially assists or replaces human judgment. Companies can claim that a person reviews the AI's top results. If the AI filtered out the vast majority before that human ever looks, the law's protections become paper-thin. Loopholes allow companies to appear compliant without changing how candidates are excluded. So where does that leave the job seeker? For many, the numbers in the law are abstract. Sarah thinks her resume needs polishing. She thinks she must practice interview skills. She does not know her cover letter was never opened. The white font tweak she tried is recognized and flagged by modern applicant tracking systems. In trying to trick the machine, she accidentally triggered a security filter. That's the cruel irony. Hacks and counterhacks escalate an arms race between desperate applicants and defensive systems. Meanwhile, recruiters rely on the same automation to manage volume, and both sides feel more alienated. What can be done? There are 3 fronts: personal strategy, corporate responsibility, and systemic reform. First, personal strategy. The safest path for most applicants is to minimize dependence on blind, volume-driven application routes and to prioritize human contact. The hidden job market, networking, referrals, reaching out to hiring managers matters more than ever. A thoughtful, personalized email to a real person can bypass an automated queue. Building relationships inside industries and communities creates pathways where human judgment can spot non-linear talent. For those who must apply through ATS-driven portals, simplicity helps. Use standard formats, avoid suspicious formatting, and mirror clear keywords from job descriptions without stuffing or deception. Second, corporate responsibility. Hiring leaders must recognize that outsourcing judgment to opaque systems is a moral and strategic failure. If a platform filters out 90% of candidates before human review, the resulting talent pool is shaped more by code than culture. Organizations should demand transparency from vendors: what data trains their models, what features they use, and how they test for disparate impact. They should insist on human-in-the-loop processes that review a diverse set of candidates and on audits that are public and interpretable. Hiring is not only an efficiency problem, it is a values problem. When leaders default to algorithms, they abdicate accountability. Third, systemic reform. Policy and oversight need stronger teeth. Laws should require explainability where automated systems materially affect employment outcomes, and they should close loopholes that allow mere human sign-offs to mask algorithmic exclusion. Regulators should enforce rigorous audits and make outcomes transparent at scale. We should create standards for data quality, for testing bias, and for redress, so individuals can challenge rejections that hinge on flawed models. The goal is not to ban automation wholesale. It is to ensure that automation augments rather than supplants fair human judgment. At the heart of this crisis is a philosophical choice. Do we let the past define the future, or do we design systems that intentionally amplify potential? Machines excel at pattern recognition. Humans excel at seeing possibility beyond patterns. The most innovative hires are often outliers, people who followed non-linear paths, who developed eclectic skill sets, who bring perspectives that a model trained on historical hires cannot predict. If we want workplaces that reflect a changing world, we must look beyond neat keyword matches and give people a chance to be seen. Back at Sarah's kitchen table, the cursor blinks on her screen. She sleeps, not knowing her application was archived by an algorithm. In a parallel life, she might have emailed a former colleague, joined a panel conversation, or asked a hiring manager for a referral. Those paths are the quiet human work that technology cannot replicate. The future of hiring depends on restoring that work to the center. The 3-second rule is both a warning and a call to action. When an API call can erase a career in less time than it takes to take a breath, we must demand more than efficiency. We must insist on systems designed to discover, not just to filter, to explain, not just to rank, to include, not just to exclude. For applicants, the practical truth is to seek human routes and to simplify when forced to play the machine's game. For leaders and policymakers, the obligation is to bring light into the black box and to be accountable for the choices their systems make. This story is not about algorithms as villains. It is about choices, about what we value when we hand decisions over to code. Efficiency is not an end in itself. If the metric that matters most is speed, we will optimize away possibility. If instead we value potential, curiosity, and resilience, we will design processes that let those qualities surface. So the next time you feel your future hinge on a single click, remember Sarah. Remember the 3 seconds. And remember that until systems change, the most powerful thing you can do is not outsmart the machine. It is to find the human who can see you.